See, Clark? Who's getting the solicitor home on his own?
Is that your agenda? Way to go.
No business. If only you were billing by the hour.
Looking out for me, Ben. I appreciate it.
Hey, Dennis, hey, Mark. Hey, Tom. How you doing?
What am I going to do with myself?
I'd write another dissertation this time.
Oh, yeah.
That's 10, Ed. That's 10. Probably almost lost it after all this clouds we had.
It's a short agenda.
I was going to say.
Except she's here.
Yeah,
And early.
Open records officer's job. Good job. I would agree.
Maybe I won't. They pull back.
I guess Michael isn't more.
I'm hoping I'm wrong. But you're not.
How you doing?
Oh, did I tell you that I was going to have the guys out cutting the grass? But when I was out there, I remember that they put the stakes. They staked out the building. If they hadn't staked out the building, I would have opened up the building. Yeah, they're up there today at Crestmont. Not over the stakes, but it's been a little bit too hard for them to maneuver all around. But when a guy starts, I think people talk.
Maybe they got something from Maria.
Yeah, he's really nice. I'll keep my own.
Just that.
One of the captain's friends.
Hey, wait.
Go right ahead. Go feed me. With Michael.
Good evening, and welcome to the May 31st, 2017 Public Works Committee meeting. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioners Hecker.
Here.
Barron.
Here.
Klein.
Here.
Myers. Here.
Here.
Thank you. Our first order of business this evening is to approve the minutes of the May 3rd, 2017 Public Works Committee meeting, and may I have a motion to approve?
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any comments or corrections from members of the committee? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The Public Works Committee has two items of business this evening. The first is PW1, and this is a motion to authorize $100,000 to be expensed from the Permanent Improvement Fund balance for milling of township roads, and I so move.
Second.
Are there any comments or questions from members of the committee? Fellow commissioners? Any comments from staff? Any comments from the audience?
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. I know there was something of an explanation down there, but I didn't appreciate fully that the reason that this was not in the budget was because these are roads that that Agua or Pico had chosen to dig up, or how did that not get in the budget?
So I'll turn to Mr. Micolo, and I'll be happy to help supplement that.
What they did was they I don't know whether they found more money or what they decided to do, but they added on to what they were currently doing. So they've taken what they had anticipated doing, what they started doing, and have added on to it a lot more streets. We're well over 21 miles this year. For us to be able to complete that entire 21 miles, we have to hire a milling contractor to come in and help us out on a few of the roads. Otherwise, we're never going to be able to get it done. It wasn't anticipated they were going to do that much work this year. For whatever reason, they both decided, Aqua and Pico decided to do more work this year.
So that was Pico or Agua or who?
That's both.
It's both.
Both, okay. And before we talked about the fact that in some cases the millings, the cost of taking the millings back and having them reprocessed is allowed to the contractor who does the millings. In this case, is the contractor doing the millings, taking that back? And
That is correct.
okay. And that's factored into the price, I trust.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other comments from members of the audience? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. PW2, and this is a motion to approve the MS4 stormwater plan for Abington Township, and I so move.
Second.
Are there any comments or questions from members of the committee? Commissioner Klein.
Yeah, just a nice job, Mike, for BCM also. So I went through most of it. So a couple times I fell asleep. So when we pass it if we pass it next week at our board meeting, then it gets transferred up to DEP.
That's correct. It goes up, it'll go to DEP, and then we'll wait for comments from them on the plan and see what comments they have, whether they like it or don't like it, or want to add more or less. I really haven't had any comments from the citizens. Friday's the last date, June 2nd, for comments from the citizens, and the 30 days is up. But however, it's a floating plan, and it's not like we can't change something if DEP comes back. I talked to Rita Stevens, the Shade Tree Commission, and we've talked about maybe adding some other projects down in Ardsley, and they do a lot of work down there. I said, well, that's part of the same run. We have a lot of stuff in there, but if for some reason DEP comes back and says we don't have enough projects, we have to add a few more. She's confident we can get grants for a lot of things. So we might switch some things out. If we get grants, we'll switch some things out for the grant money versus the township paying for money. So again, it's just to get something together, get it in before September 17th, get it up to DEP and see if we get any comments.
And you've anticipated some of the future work in your capital outlook for the next few years?
A lot of my work is future work is in the capital. A lot of that is grants, like almost over half of it. Sorry about that. A lot of it's, like I said, is grants. And so we're confident that at least 70-80% of it we can get grant money as we go out the next 5 years.
Thanks, Mike.
Other comments or questions? No. Fellow commissioners? Any comments from staff? Members of the audience?
Just Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane, and I just want to add again that rain barrels are, I think, in that plan. Am I right?
That's correct. Rain barrels are part of it, as well as seepage pits.
Okay. And I think they are an absurdity. They are half full. They are 90% of the time only used for a little while, so they're put in, and then they're not connected up, or the person doesn't water the garden, so they're still full. and they don't collect anything near. So if you actually have a need to get rid of water and you're using rain barrels to do it, and the meadow grasses are great. The rain gardens are great. We should have a lot more of them. And I would encourage our EAC and other people to get involved doing that all across the township, getting rain gardens in. But rain barrels are simply absurd. Thank you.
Any other comments from members of the audience? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll now open the floor for comments about general matters of public works from any member of the audience.
Laura Lehman, same address, and I could have said this before when we were talking about roads. I just wanted to correct something that was said earlier when I was talking about the fact that our roads hadn't been done for over 25 years. And somebody said, well, we all want our roads to be done, but it just can't be done. There's not enough. Well, there is. At one point, we had $13 million in unrestricted
So I'm
fund
confused.
balance.
Are you referencing something you said earlier this evening, or are you referencing a different conversation?
No, this was in a previous meeting in the famous way where I say something and then after I sit down with no opportunity to correct anything, somebody undoes what I said. So our roads over 25 years clearly are in need of a regular maintenance schedule, and that is not being done. And I would like to see that there is, a certain number of years and so on. And some of the roads that are being done, partially perhaps because chosen to do some work or sewer main work needed to be done, but that doesn't make another road in need of doing. And so the point that I wanted to make was that we did collect a great deal of taxes that were substantially more than were needed. But those services were actually pulled in, and that great vast amount of money was allowed to build up. And to some degree, I think a great deal of that was because we had, and the finance department knew it, and the manager knew it, and probably most of you knew it, that we had a great big hole to fill on salaries and benefits that nobody was talking about. But what happened was that 13 to 16 million disappeared like that in places that were not approved in budget time. So I would very much disagree with the statement that we need a plan for the roads that does not include them going to 25 and 30 years where they're in the conditions that they're in. Thank you.
Your concern about the road is noted, and you've mentioned that before. I will say that I dispute your perspective and notion about the budgeting process, and we've had that conversation here publicly on numerous occasions. I flat out disagree with your characterization of that.
So then you would know where my road is in the mix to come up, because it's in bad condition.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you've characterized a budgeting approach, which I would just categorically disagree with your perspective. And I don't want to engage in a debate here, but we need to focus on what your concern is. And your concern is that your road hasn't been paved with the frequency or the cycle that you think is appropriate.
No, it's not just my road. I ride my bike through the townships.
Fair, okay.
And
So now,
come near killing myself on roads that are past their prime. And I've come here many, many times, and there's no way an answer should come from you that I totally disagree until you've seen what I'm looking at, which apparently you don't want to do.
well, that's also untrue. What I'm saying is your characterization of the funding process around this is just patently inaccurate. And so we need to correct that. I understand you have a perspective about your road, which you voiced here on numerous occasions, and you're entitled to that perspective.
What part of the funding am
I'm not-
I in error about?
So we're not going to get into a lengthy debate here. I've let you go beyond your 3 minutes. I just couldn't let that comment pass without a corrective statement.
Okay, so again, you said I'm wrong, but you don't want to say what the correct thing is. So this, I mean, what needs to happen is the dialogue for understanding, because these are issues that impact people's lives. So that's why that's important. Thank you.
Any other comments from members of the audience? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Micolo.
I have something very important to say. June 17th, we will have an electronic collection at the Highway Yard from 9 to 12. And on June 24th, upcoming, we'll have a hazardous waste collection at the high school from 9 to 3. So I thought that was very important to get that out, because it's a very popular thing, and we're getting thousands of phone calls asking us about it. So hopefully this can get out in time to let everybody know.
Ed, do you know if the EAC will be out there again, as they have been?
Yes, they always come out when we do the when we do a shredding event, or when we do the electronics collection. They're out there in full force, and we work very well together. They catch them coming in, and if it gets too busy, they'll catch them on the way out.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
I'll make sure your address is right.
It's called to order the Code Enforcement and Land Development Committee meeting for May 31st, 2017. And may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Sanchez.
Here.
Markman. DePlacido.
Here.
Ciccone.
Here.
Gillespie.
Here.
And Commissioner Markman is excused for the evening. First, we have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 3rd, 2017 Code Enforcement and Land Development Committee meeting, and I so move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any comments, corrections, additions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved. And the Code Enforcement and Land Development Committee has no business this evening. Therefore, I will open it up to general comments on Code Enforcement and Land Development. Members of the audience. 3 minutes, please, and your name and address for the record.
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. So, number one, the code and zoning rewrites, I just want to reiterate, were, an unbelievable disappointment that what was in them was not sent out to people, including that at your approval meeting, when you were trying to decide if you should have to put this off because of the changes you were making, one commissioner, who's not here at the moment, oh yes she is, actually said, no, let's approve them quickly, because if people find out more stuff, there'll be more people here next time complaining about them. So you knew that if people knew what was in them, they weren't going to be happy. And almost none of you did send the whole entire document. That's like sending the whole zoning code and saying, what do you like about it and what don't you like about it? But you didn't tell them what you were doing as you were going along in small chunks, so that they could do something about it. I've had discussions with our chief of police about the litter laws and the fact that solicitors throwing things, I was just away on vacation, came home, there's a baggie on the driveway. Okay, that marks my house. It's not okay. It's a safety issue. So I would like to see how we can get the state litter laws enforced, or alternatively, create litter laws here so that people do not. Today I had what looked like a flyer and somebody using my box, and they actually, my commissioner's timing me, he's such a nice guy. They were actually using the box, but this one had a stamp on the back. They were legally allowed to use the box. All of them can do that. So please do something here. You all showed that you were able to do something about gerrymandering. Thank you. That's how it's supposed to work. Okay? When the state laws aren't good, you get together here and you decide what works and you change it. So please do. Okay? And I also just want to add that there is a huge concern that in the Code Enforcement Department, that so many things have gone unenforced. So many things. They have caused much of the blight by refusing to use the code enforcement tools that they have. And I would like to see that you're actually concerned that we're paying people to do that, because the effect on other people's lives, in my own case, well over $100,000 of financial expense, not to mention many other problems. And I have spoken to resident after resident. I could give you hundreds of examples of how their lives have been affected by that.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
With that, can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion. We're adjourned.
Alrighty, you ready here? Mm-hmm. Right. Good evening. I'd like to call the Public Safety Committee of May 31st, 2017 to order, and I'll have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Schreiber.
Here.
DePlacido.
Here.
Bowman. Spiegelman.
Here.
Kalinowski.
Commissioners Bowman and Kalinowski have been excused this evening. And now can I have a motion to approve the minutes of May 3rd, 2017? And I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any changes, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
I think that was everybody, our small committee here today, so we will move on.
But we have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. Before we start with our police department report, we have an announcement from Rich Garrett from the Second Alarmers.
Hi, good evening. I just want to point out that in the next week or two, every resident in the township should be receiving our annual subscription drive. This year, we're doing something different. We're doing it in 3 phases. We used to just send an envelope out with a bunch of mail-in letters in it. This year, we're sending a postcard, hoping that people would electronically sign up or make a phone call to come in so we can save on paper and we don't have a lot of trash and everything like that. So please, next week or two, look in the mail to see this, and we encourage people to go online and sign up for the subscription. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Can they still do it by check if they...
Absolutely.
Okay.
It even says on the third thing you can actually mail a check in, and if you do subscribe online or you make a phone call or you mail a check in, prior to our second drive going out, you will not get that second piece of mail. So that's what we're trying to do, is reduce paper.
Of course. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We appreciate
Just a
that.
quick question, Chief Garrett. Is that postcard or some kind of a flyer about the subscription drive? Is that available on your website or Facebook page?
It does explain briefly about the subscription drive and what it covers and what it entails you. It also encourages you to go to the website to get more information, or you can make a phone call.
We'll get that in the newsletter, then.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to call on Chief Livingood for our police department report.
Thank you, Commissioner Schreiber. On May 12, 2017, the Montgomery County District Attorney released the Montgomery County Investigating Grand Jury Report titled The Opioid Epidemic. We previously distributed a link to this 82-page report, and it is also available for downloading from the District Attorney's website. Commissioner Schreiber played a leadership role on the Montgomery County Overdose Task Force, which also had input into the grand jury report. If you haven't had an opportunity to read that yet, or at least peruse it, I would strongly encourage you to do it. There's some very good information in there. One of the first things you're going to find out is the statistics are absolutely staggering. According to the report, opioid-related overdose deaths in Montgomery County increased 533% between 2002 and 2015. Within the past 2 weeks, we had another opioid overdose death in Abington, which is 3 for the year, with at least 10 Narcan applications. In response to this epidemic, the District Attorney has issued an overdose response and investigation protocol, and Abington Police have developed a policy that will follow the District Attorney's guidelines. We have already put this into effect immediately, and we have made dealing with this crisis the #1 priority for our police department. One strategy that shows some promise is the Drug Education and Addiction Prevention Program, and that's titled DEAP, which is a pilot collaborative effort between Lower Providence Police Department and the District Attorney's Office aimed at identifying young offenders between 18 and 26 who have been arrested for drug possession and low-level related crimes with a goal of preventing them from becoming addicts or even worse. This is a diversionary program at the district justice level, and we have Lieutenant Warner working with Lower Providence and the District Attorney's Office to determine if it's appropriate for us to get involved in this as well. So we'll be keeping you posted on that. We'll let you know what we find out from Lieutenant Warner's investigation, and we may be making a recommendation in the future to try that. On the agenda tonight is the promotion of Officer Jen Doyle to Sergeant. This is the next step in our succession plan and will take us back to 11 sergeants and a total of 19 supervisors, top to bottom. Also on the agenda is the hiring of 2 police officers, which will put us at our allotted number of 92. One of these officers is currently a police officer elsewhere, and we'll be able to get him up to speed and utilize him rather quickly. The other needs basic 120 recruit training and will join previously hired Megan Peff in the Montgomery County July Basic Police Academy. Obviously, we will not see them until the end of the year. They really won't do us much good, but at least we'll be started on that process. And that's my report.
Thank you very much. Any questions from any committee members or any of the commissioners? Thank you. Al, do you have a...
Sure. Good evening, Commissioners. Just a reminder, tomorrow June begins, which means our traffic safety blitz for the month of June will begin. Signs are available at the traffic safety office. You can either call or stop in and get a sign. I have a few tonight over there for some of you, so just look for your names and take them home. As you also know, with June coming about, the middle of the month, that means schools are going to be out, so we want to remind the motoring public to drive safely. And some of you may have noticed in the past couple of weeks, we started a new program in traffic safety for social media. We have been putting out at the end of the previous weeks where we are concentrating our traffic enforcement activities in the following week. So hopefully that way the public who does see that, it may jog their memories while they're driving through those neighborhoods to be an extra careful, at least for that week anyway. So we're hoping to see a positive improvement with that. And that would be all I have for the night.
Thank you. Isn't that supposed to be the other way around, where you're not supposed to tell them, and then you can... Thank you. I appreciate it.
Let the system work.
Yes. Any report at all from the fire department? Okay, thank you. All righty. So moving on with our regular agenda. We have PS1, motion to appoint candidate Lee Yoakum from the Certified Civil Service Eligibility List to the position of probationary police officer, provided he successfully completes the background, physical, and psychological tests and all entry requirements of the Municipal Police Officers Education and Training Commission for Act 120 training. Appointment will be effective July 5th, 2017, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from commissioners, staff, or audience? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. PS2 is a motion to appoint candidate Ryan Hisara from the Certified Civil Service Eligibility List to the position of probationary police officer, provided he successfully completes the background, physical, and psychological tests and all entry requirements of the Municipal Police Officers Education and Training Commission for training. Should be Act 120 training. Appointment will be effective July 5th, 2017, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from commissioners, staff, audience? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. PS3 is a motion to promote Officer Jennifer Doyle to the rank There's some typos in this tonight, to the rank of probationary sergeant effective June 9th, 2017, provided she successfully completes the remaining portions of the promotional process, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? I actually have a question. Does Bella also move up? Does Bella also move up in rank, or?
That's an interesting question, Commissioner, and actually, we have given consideration to that, but that dog is too valuable, and as you know, we are down one dog now, so she will keep that dog, and we'll keep that dog in service.
Chief, you need your microphone.
Okay. Were you able to hear that? I was.
We were, but you might have to say
Okay.
it.
Repeat it for me.
What I said was that that dog is too valuable to us at the moment. We are short at least one dog right now, and we have another one that's in training. So because of a number of factors, she will keep the dog. We will try to cut down on some of the extraneous things she does. For example, we have told her that should she be promoted, she will not be able to do as much of the outside human relations or the community relations type of things for other departments. We'll continue to do them here in Abington for our residents and our citizens and our commissioners, but we're just going to have to cut down on the... She does such a good job of it. She's been a tremendous demand, as you well know, and we've had her... we've loaned her out to a number of outside agencies. We're going to cut back on that because it is a job that needs to be learned, being a supervisor.
Thank you. So Bella needs a higher rank also.
That's right.
Yes, okay. Any other questions or comments from commissioners?
I just want to say, Chief Livingood, very happy to hear that. This is great news. Officer Doyle, soon to be probationary Sergeant Doyle, is such a phenomenal asset to the department, and I'm really glad to hear that she and Bella will still be doing the community relations stuff here in the township, because I know, the kids at the Highland Spring Fling have loved seeing those demonstrations for years. I know they do demonstrations like that all over, and really, they're such great ambassadors for the department. So this is wonderful news.
They will be at the Pet Fair in Roslyn in 2 weeks.
You mean on June 10th?
June 10th. That's the date.
Shameless.
Any other questions or comments? Staff, audience? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. PS4 is a motion to approve ordinance number 2139 and authorize the solicitor to advertise. And we need a bit of an explanation, and I'm turning it over to Solicitor Clark.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is the ordinance that we discussed last month. This allows for the township to create a volunteer credit program that allows those who volunteer in the township in either our volunteer firefighters or EMS to receive a tax credit on the earned income tax based on a criteria that will be established regarding a variety of factors, the number of calls or other things that they are doing for the volunteer fire companies and for the EMS. The requirements of this ordinance will, unlike other ordinances, this needs to be advertised for 30 days. So as we were looking at the calendar, we're probably not going to be able to get to this until August. But once the ordinance is passed, then the second stage of the ordinance is that we meet with the fire chiefs and the head of the EMS to develop the criteria that will be used to determine whether or not someone is eligible for the credit. And then at a subsequent date, that criteria is reduced to a resolution which will be passed by the board. The amount that that is in the ordinance tonight for the tax credit is the amount that is allowed by law. This comes from legislation that was passed last year by the state, and not surprisingly, they have not come up with all of their guidelines yet for the administration of this tax credit. For instance, one of the things we're supposed to do after we pass all of this is we're supposed to submit it for review to the state fire commissioner, but they haven't produce the regulations and the guidance on exactly what we're supposed to do. So some of the things we're still waiting to see how they'll shake out, but it shouldn't impact our ability to pass this at our August meeting.
Thank you. I realized I didn't say, and I so moved, so you second that?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. So now, I know I have some questions, I'm sure some other people do as well. So I'll just start, and then if somebody, the committee wants to have questions. So I know it's 1,000 is the maximum by law. If there are two people in the same household, I don't know if that happens at all, if there are any couples that are both volunteers, would it be 1,000 each or 1,000 for a household?
If are they both volunteers, then they both qualify for it, because we're dealing it with the earned income tax and not with property tax. So if they're both paying earned income tax, they can't bundle it onto one or the other. But if they're both paying earned income tax and they're both volunteers and they both qualify under the criteria that we established, they would both receive the credit.
Okay. And I know the fire companies, and maybe Fire Marshal can weigh in on this, have some kind of criteria that they have already established for being able to get their liability and things like that. Is that, can we use the criteria that's already been established, or do we have to set up new eligibility?
I think what we're required to do, I'm not speaking for the fire marshal, but I think what we're required to do is we are required to work with the fire marshal, the fire chiefs and the head of the EMS, and we're required to come up with a criteria. If we take much of what they've already established and we determine that that satisfies what we're looking, what we want, we can just put that in our resolution.
Okay. And my one other question, well, I know we talked about residents of the township, but I think we're going to get into that in just a second. So any other questions from committee members first?
You asked the question I was going to ask.
Okay. How about other commissioners? Commissioner Myers.
Thank you. A couple questions. You had stated, and it's on the front page, and I'm going to, Solicitor Clark, I'm going to direct these to you because I think you're answering the questions. And you had mentioned it could be from the real estate tax or the earned income tax. And the rest of the document talks about the earned income tax. How was that decision made from property tax, earned income tax as opposed to property tax?
I think it's just essentially what had been discussed at the prior meeting about making it as part of the EIT, so that's the way we drafted it. Since there is going to be a significant amount of lag time between advertising this and the adoption of it, if the board wants to change it to include both, then the board can change it to include both. But we just drafted what had been discussed at the meeting.
Okay. Will this affect in any way our LoSAP program?
I can't answer that question right now. I haven't been asked that question before. We'd have to take a look, but we don't know.
Well, I think it's important because we established that program, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, and there is a criteria for that program. Perhaps the same criteria could be used for this. I don't know, but we want to do everything to protect that program. And for those of you that don't know, it's the length of service. LoSAP is the length of service program that we have for firefighters.
We don't know. We haven't looked at it yet.
Okay.
I would tend to think that it would not. I don't think this is meant to be in lieu of any other programs that are set up. I think this is meant to be in addition to other programs that may be set up. But obviously, the legislature needed to pass this because taxes need to be uniform. So this is a deviation from having uniformly applied taxes, so that's why they needed to do this. It probably wouldn't affect that other program, but we'll take a look at that before next week.
I think it's important, and my questions in no way suggest that I am not for this program. I certainly am. I just think that we need to cover all bases. There seems to be a lot of detail missing from this, which is the criteria, which you said will be discussed with the fire chiefs. So I just don't want us to rush into this, and let's do it right the first time.
Well, this is right. the criteria needs to be established after the adoption of the ordinance.
Okay.
So the ordinance needs to be adopted first, and then the criteria needs to be established, and then that needs to be passed by resolution, so.
Well, when it gets to the point at the fire chiefs meeting, would they have a say in whether or not it's earned income tax or property tax?
No.
That's our decision?
That decision is to the board. What you're consulting with the fire chiefs on is obviously you can take their input on anything regarding this, but what you're consulting with them on is the criteria that will be established to have it so that someone qualifies for this program.
It also says the tax credit shall only be applicable to the earned income tax imposed by the township. Would it behoove us in any way to ask the school district if they wanted to be part of this and that their percentage be included?
It can the way the legislation is written, it can only be to the portion of the township EIT or the portion of the township property taxes.
Okay.
I don't believe there is any mechanism for the school district or the county to participate in it also.
Okay. I think that's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Klein.
So my first question is the ordinance, is the motion, is the motion written correctly? It says motion to approve ordinance number 2139 and authorize the solicitor to advertise. Is it ordinance 2139?
Commissioner Klein, I did not.
That's my first question. I just talks about approving the ordinance 2139.
This is simply an authorization to advertise.
Okay.
Because you need, again, by law, it has to be advertised for a minimum of 30 days.
So we may want to change the wording because the first part of it says motion to approve ordinance 2139
so it'd be
as opposed to
motion to
approve
advertise.
Advertising.
Yeah. But actually, when we were originally going to do this, it was going to be for discussion only tonight. But are we making it a motion to advertise because we need that many days?
You need, and we were looking at the calendar and where we advertise, the newspaper that we advertise in. We don't believe we would be able to get it into get it in quick enough to be able to vote on it at the July meeting. So we were suggesting that you'd advertise it and then you'd vote on it in August. So
if we still have changes.
Right. But the motion to authorize the advertisement would be next week at the voting meeting.
So do I have to? How do I?
This is simply a motion to authorize the solicitor. It's a motion to authorize the solicitor to advertise the ordinance.
But because we already moved and seconded it, do I have to?
With the word approve in there.
Yeah.
That's it easy. Okay, so it's the motion to advertise.
I don't think if you make a motion to amend your motion, I don't think whoever seconded it is going to object.
So I will amend my motion to authorize advertisement.
Second.
Very well done.
Thank you, Commissioner Klein.
So
you have another point.
So I don't have any specific questions. I mean, I've read through the ordinance because I think we're going to have a public hearing at some point on this. But I did want to ask that the manager and the finance director work with the fire chiefs or the fire marshal's office and try to get some idea as to, even if it's using existing criteria that the fire companies use right now to evaluate firefighters, how many people would potentially qualify for this tax credit and what the fiscal impact would be. I fully understand that, not having a volunteer fire company would cost us a whole lot more than that, but we should be all going into this with our eyes wide open, and when it comes time for budget, everybody understands that there is a potential negative effect on the budget process. And once again, I'm not suggesting that this is not a bad idea. This is not the reason. This is a reason to not do this. I think it is, but we should all understand the fiscal impact of this. So at some point, in the next period of time before this hearing occurs, it'd be nice to have some of those numbers or some projected numbers as to what we expect.
Originally, we had just looked at the EIT, so I don't know if you want to have Kevin look at versus property.
We'll look at both.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Sanchez, he was hand up first, I'm sorry.
I'll be quick, because Commissioner Klein took the words right out of my mouth on my second point, but in relation to that, too, we should, and I don't see it in here, but we should figure out if it carries forward each year. So if there's a portion of the credit unused, whether that is, whether you can take that to the next part, and that may go away, understandably, if it can be used for the property tax too. But so let's figure out all the numbers as we go through the process. And that's it. Thanks.
Commissioner
Mine was kind of on the same line, real estate taxes and EIT. It would be, I think there's a big difference. When they're reaching that $1,000 with a real estate tax, do you know what I mean? EIT, wouldn't it be less?
It depends on their income.
I understand that, but the
threshold, I think, is certainly
the threshold would be much different, I do believe. Volunteer, I don't.
It's 20% maximum of the property taxes of the township tax only.
Okay.
So depending on what the average tax bill is for a volunteer in the township, it's only 20%. So
just curious for anything that keeps our volunteers going, because they do a great job.
Commissioner Klein?
There was one other thing, and I forgot to bring it up, and I had brought it up to Commissioner Schreiber and Commissioner Luker.
That's why I said I'll wait till you bring it up, and then you didn't bring it up. So
yeah, sorry. I just remembered. I did have a conversation with Commissioner Sharkey in Cheltenham Township, and there is some interest in looking at trying to coordinate efforts both from Abington and Cheltenham. And he mentioned that he believes that there's some overlap with residents of Cheltenham Township volunteering in Abington and vice versa. I don't know whether that's true or not, but is it possible for the managers to reach out or the solicitors to reach out to Cheltenham Township and find out what their efforts are and see if there's some way of coordinating their efforts?
If I may, some of you may or may not recall this, but I am part of the steering committee that Delaware Valley Insurance Trust has put together with the county collection agency. We have a conference call tomorrow, and a lot of the issues that you're talking about have been issues that have been wrestled with among all the municipalities from Montgomery County, frankly, and that's been one of them. How do we handle the crossover?
Right.
So there are a number of them. I have been inactive with my transition from one municipality to the other, but we have a conference call tomorrow on this very topic.
Right, because I could imagine the same thing's true with Upper Moreland, Jenkintown being in the center between us and Cheltenham, maybe even Upper Dublin, but whatever. I mean, I think it's a worthy conversation to try to coordinate some of the efforts and some of the advantages both back and forth between the municipalities.
Any other comments for commissioners? So right now it's written that it's Abington Township residents only, I believe. So if we did have that conversation and it was going to change, is that something that would affect the advertising of it?
Yes. That would more than likely be considered a substantial amendment. That would require re-advertising. But we can most likely be able to get some answers to most of these questions by next Thursday. And if we need to there's nothing that says we can't make adjustments next Thursday and then advertise that. So.
Correct.
So we'd need to know the fiscal impact of that too, I guess, if there is one.
The earned income tax wouldn't be as difficult. If we have the property tax parcel numbers of every firefighter who would be eligible, you can certainly research that through the tax assessment office and come up with some sort of appraised value and work our way back. So we have to know every person who's eligible's property address and, frankly, the income. I think to get it in a week is going to be a bit of a challenge, truthfully.
Yeah, I would think so. Okay. Well, let's see what we can get for next week.
So clarification, how is this going to play out, Solicitor? It's going to be a motion to advertise tonight.
Correct.
Next Thursday, it'll be based on some of the information that the township manager gets from the meeting tomorrow. How is that going to be on the agenda for next Thursday?
We, depending on what we have, we will notify the board of what we have discovered and what potential changes could be made, and then I guess Lauren will have to draft several versions of the ordinance for next Thursday, and then the board can decide which one they want to advertise, if it's going to change anything from what you have in front of you this evening.
So it's potentially, it could be another motion to advertise next Thursday?
No, you would just, well, yes, you would make the motion to advertise and then just approve that, right? You wouldn't have to, there wouldn't need to be another month or another committee hearing on it, so, yeah.
Is there a point where you have to have a public hearing on this?
When you're adopting the ordinance.
When
We
you adopt
would
the
be doing that in August, there would be a public hearing to adopt the ordinance.
All right, thank you.
I do have one other question. Because we have it as the second alarmers as well, when we're talking about the criteria for the firefighters, but it would also be the second alarmers. And I don't know how many volunteers, maybe Rich can answer that?
I'm not sure, but it's, I would say, volunteers.
Come to the mic. Thank you, Chief.
My bad. I'm not sure exactly how many volunteers live in the township, because we are based in Upper Moreland and a couple other municipalities. Maybe 12 to 15 at most. That's a wild guess.
Okay. I just wanted Rich to be aware of that as well. Thank you. Yep. Thank you. Any questions or comments from staff or audience? No, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
No opposed. So that motion carries. And now we'll have any comments about public safety that is not agenda items.
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. So one of the requests I have is that when you read, I always laugh when I see the sheriff's sales in the paper, because if you wanted to know what the property was, you have to read through all this gobbledygook, and you get down and you find the property hidden somewhere in the middle, and it's in a different place in almost every one. And I always wonder, why don't they put the property and the amount and the person to contact at the beginning, and then put all the stuff in and save everybody? So I know they have to advertise it. So same thing when you're reading the stuff about no parking here to corner and all of that. Could we just put the property address up in the front? And so people know what you're talking about when you put that in. And the real story is, even though the ordinance says all that, no parking here to corner, no parking anytime, blah, 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 the real story is, what is it that you're putting in, on what corner, and what will those actions be? Could you put that into what you read so that people know when you read that? Would you mind doing that?
We can look into it. I know we used to do it that way. I think the way we do it now is the way that it's normally done in most municipalities, I believe. But I'll look into it.
It would be helpful, and it certainly would be something that would be meaningful to people. So I'd appreciate it if you could do that. I did forget to say hello to Mr. Manfredi and welcome, and I certainly look forward to meeting you soon and talking to you about some of the many issues that I have concerns about. So I spoke with, or I emailed with Chief Livingood, and we were talking about the officers, that are in our neighborhoods. We used to have an officer that we sort of knew, but then that officer changed fairly frequently. So one of the concerns I had was that we had some way of knowing when we had a new officer and get to know. I mean, I would think that would be a good part of community policing, is developing that relationship in neighborhoods. So he's directed me to Deputy Chief Malloy, but you didn't mention the names of the people. I think there were 4, you said, assigned to my neighborhood. I would like to know their names. I would like to get to know them. I would like them to know our problems, because if they know our problems and take them back, and it's not just one person, and I think the police know that I have my entire neighborhood almost connected. There's only a few people that aren't on there. I would like them to use that as a resource, and I'd be glad to email out whatever it is they would like in the format that they would like. But I think that's an important part of public safety. We had an elderly man who was lost last year, and he was found in the creek behind our homes. And had somebody let me know when that first happened, I would have put that word out. He might not have ended up in that creek. So we're trying to work together as a community. And on that note, I think, Madam Chairperson, you also know that I have asked many times to meet with yourself and with President Luker, because the issues that I have are not things that come out in a sentence or an email. They're things that I need to know what part of it you know, and you need to know what part of it I know, and I need to be able to keep some of it.
Well, I will give you the same answer that I have given you in the past, that if you would tell me what those issues are, then I can involve the correct people and I will arrange the meeting. You have still not given me a list of what the issues and who may be involved. So when I get that list from you, I'd be more than happy to look at it.
So you've heard a lot of them from this podium, and I've not had an answer from you on any of them that I've brought to this podium. That's my concern. When I tell you that something is keeping us unsafe, for instance, tonight we talked about the code enforcement and the lack of it. And it's not something you can write in one sentence, how it affects these people's lives and why it's important to change that. So you need to know and understand that if you're in charge of that, in charge of our lives, and in how that plays out in our lives. And so I'm asking both of you again to sit down with me and to talk about some of these issues. And it's not that you don't know what they are, but we don't get any resolution to them. They just keep going on and going on. Things as simple as wearing the permit for the solicitors, which the chief has promised me we may get some progress on that soon. But those things are safety issues, and there are much, much larger ones that you need to know and we need to do something about. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments from the audience? Hearing none, all those, we will adjourn for this evening. All those in favor?
Aye. All right. It is my pleasure to convene the Township of Abington Public Affairs Committee meeting of May 31st, 2017. We start with a roll call.
Commissioner Spillier.
Here.
Schreiber.
Here.
Hoffman.
Here.
Kalinowski.
Commissioners Bowman and Kalinowski are excused for the evening. Let us start with the approval of the minutes. This is a motion to approve the minutes of the May 3rd, 2017 Public Affairs Committee meeting, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any changes, corrections, additions, covfefes? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved.
Good work.
Parks and Rec Director Oles is present tonight. He doesn't actually have a report because he really wanted to keep things streamlined, which I respect. But if anyone has any questions for him, please feel free to ask or grab him afterwards because he'll be here for the whole committee meeting. We have two agenda items tonight, and this is the first, PA1. This is a motion to adopt resolution number 17-018, the appointment of Secretary, Township Manager Richard J. Manfredi, to the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Abington, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Pretty straightforward. Our official board secretary will be our new Township Manager. Any questions or comments from our little quorum here?
No.
Commissioners in general? Staff? Audience?
Okay, Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane.
Beat me to it.
Same issue I mentioned before is, I just want to try and understand this. So $173,000 is the salary. That's intended to be an executive salary, correct?
We're not discussing personnel salaries. This is a role that is traditionally played, one of myriad roles played by the township manager. And we have to do this by appointment. So we are officially appointing our new township manager as the board secretary, just as our previous township manager and the manager before that, ad infinitum, served in that role.
Okay, so I assume this was the official appointment of
Yes, this
him
is a
as
procedural
manager,
matter.
but a procedural, okay, all right. So,
We're not appointing him as manager.
No.
We're appointing our manager
as secretary.
As the board secretary,
I've got it.
replacing the
Yeah,
previous manager
I've got
as
it.
the board secretary. This is an
Right.
important formality, but it's a formality.
I read through that quickly. So my question again just goes back to, and I'll save it. You can
Save
answer
it.
it later, and I'm sure you're going to answer it.
I
I've
need,
never had one not
something
answered.
to look forward to in my very limited existence.
Thank you.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. PA1 passed. We're halfway done. PA2. This is a motion to adopt resolution number 17-019, appointing Assistant Township Manager Tara Waymeyer as the township's open records officer in accordance with the right to know law, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions from the small committee?
No questions.
The larger board? The impressive staff? The vast audience? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
PA2 passes. And that concludes our agenda. And now we shall open the floor to any comments within the general purview of public affairs not covered by our significant agenda. Oh, Director Oles. Now he wants to talk.
Just a couple comments I was reminded before I left the office today. With June starting tomorrow, the pool does open on June 24th, and then it'll be open 7 days a week from there on. And we do have 3 more dates with late registration hours for photos. It's Tuesday, June 13th, from noon to 8 p.m. at the Ardsley Community Center, Tuesday, June 20th, from noon to 8 at the Ardsley Community Center, and Saturday, June 24th, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Ardsley Community Center. These are extra registration days since we're still trying to get photos. These are on top of our regular hours at the main office.
What was that last date? So June 24th, what hours?
9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Ardsley Community Center. And that's just to help people get through that last minute,
late photo registration.
So I was reminded before I left today to just mention that, as we are quickly coming upon pool season.
Thank you.
And that is all.
Thank you, Director Oles. All right. Now, returning to the public.
Same name, Laura Lane, 1431 Bryant Lane. So my question about the manager's contract is just that if at 173, that's intended to be an executive salary where overtime is considered. So why is there language that sounds like that can be adjusted? Why would there be language to make up for overtime in there? And I didn't bring it with me, unfortunately. I just got back from vacation, and my desk is a mess.
I can't answer specific questions about the manager's contract or any other employee's contract. I honestly don't have it in front of me, and this is like the one night you caught me without my computer.
There's no language in the contract which provides for the manager to receive overtime, and anyone who thinks it says that is
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say it receives overtime. I said to adjust for what we would expect is that an executive salary comes with nights and evenings and so on. But there is language in there that allows for adjustment. Before, there was language in there that spoke about 8-hour blocks of time, and they could be arranged in other ways. That has disappeared, fortunately, but we still have, and I wish I brought it with me, but we still have language in there that suggests that adjustments can be made where that normally isn't the case, or you're back to, being allowed just the 40-hour week. So I don't understand why that's in there. I don't think it's in our interest. I'll get the actual facts and bring them.
I would appreciate it, because I honestly
I'll bring them to the next meeting, or I'll email them to you.
Manager Manfredi, by all means.
Since I'm the subject of your question.
Yes, thank you.
What are you asking?
So
I don't understand.
in the last contract, it said, for instance, that there was expected that there would be hours beyond the normal week, but then it said that the manager could arrange those his 8-hour blocks of time didn't have to be in one block. So
It's really
in this particular case, you're allowed to rearrange your schedule, right, and take other time off.
Now, what it is, in virtually every contract for positions such as this, the municipal manager, it is recognized, just what you said, that because of the demands of the job, that this person, this individual, whoever it may be, in this case me, will work more than the typical, what is known as a 40-hour work week.
Right.
Therefore, as any professional, if I worked 70 hours this week, I could adjust my hours. Maybe I would come in at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock instead of 7:30. If I worked tonight until 8 or 9 o'clock and I wanted to come in tomorrow morning at 8:30 instead of 7:30, I'm permitted to do that because I don't work to the job. I work to the job, not to the clock. I'm salaried. I'm Fair Labor Standards Act exempt. I don't get overtime. I'm paid a sum of money for a job, whether I do that job in 20 hours or 120 hours.
Okay, yeah, so, well, in this township, we have a huge problem with that, because we have a superintendent who had 4 jobs.
Does that answer your question?
Somewhat, yes, somewhat, although, and I understand what you're saying, okay? I'm somewhat disappointed that you aren't, for instance, because how you adjust that depends on whether you actually make it back down to a 40-hour week. Okay, so that's my concern.
You know, I'll just say this, and so I hope we could put this to rest this evening and not
Good.
have to address it again.
Sorry, could you,
I'm a soft talker, Nathan.
I know, we need the camera.
I understand. Very simply this. Ms. Lehman, there's no one who's going to outwork me. I have very little concern about how many hours I'll work or if the taxpayers are going to get their value from me.
Good.
So,
thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Manager Manfredi.
Okay, so now another question that I had is legal fees that get added on, and I don't know where this belongs, but I assume here in public affairs. So we pay our solicitor a set sum of money. At some point with the Colonnade, which ran unbelievable number of hours, and with things like the Baderwood that has run a great number of hours, the solicitor has decided that that particular amount is not covered. How is that decided? How does he decide that number of hours was covered for this project, but now this number of hours is not, and I'm charging extra? How does that get decided?
Solicitor Clark, is there any answer to that question? This is outside of my ken. This is not something I'm able to answer.
I don't decide anything.
What's that?
This idea that I'm making it up as I go along, no, I don't decide anything. If we believe something is outside of the retainer, we normally submit that to the manager first, and then to the finance committee, and then it's submitted to all of you. But we don't suddenly decide some hours are outside the retainer and some hours are. That comes back to the board for a vote.
But you decide it, and then you submit it, right? So you decide.
I don't decide.
You're working more than the retainer?
I suggest that something is outside of the retainer. I bring it to the manager's attention, my opinion, and then it goes to the finance committee, and then the finance committee either advances it to the full board or they don't advance it to the full board.
Mr. Manfredi?
let me answer this so that he doesn't have to defend his own hours. The solicitor handles all legal matters under the code, required by law. Any legal matter is under the purview of the solicitor, period. I can't do it. Finance director can't do it. A commissioner cannot do it. The commissioners have very wisely set up a base fee for all hours that are considered general legal matters under the code. There are matters that are not general, and those matters such as whatever land use application it is, and frankly, it's to the municipality's benefit because those dollars are typically reimbursed by the developer anyway. So it's paid out, but there's monies coming back in. Or it's set up as an escrow, which I believe it is here, so those taxpayer dollars never go out, never come out. It's always paid out of an escrow fund by the developer, which is very different from the case that you just mentioned. But unfortunately, those aren't left to him to decide. Those are left to myself to decide whether or not it falls within that retainer. If the retainer, and I haven't really looked at the language, isn't clear enough and we have to expand or contract that, we'll do that. But it really depends on the legal matter that he's dealing with.
Okay. So my concern in the case, for instance, of the Colonnade was that this was the firm that wrote the MOU, and it was pretty much the MOU that caused the extra hours. Okay.
Well, no.
Well, not in your opinion,
You have
but
absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
yes, I do.
Frightening.
I actually.
All right, you know what? This has been
I
absolutely
actually
scintillating. Mr. Manfredi, did you have one other thing? You look like you maybe had one other thing to say?
I think the very simple point is this. The solicitor does not determine what work he does. The legal issues that are brought to the township determines the work that he does. And how that is distributed and approved is done by the manager, not the solicitor.
Okay, that's one.
Thank you.
We can talk about.
Thank
that.
you very much, Mr. Manfredi. All right. Well, that was educational. I think now is a very good time to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. We are adjourned. Thank you.